Not unless you're going to speak to the audience.
Okay.
Pastor, on Saturday, we witnessed a blood moon. How is that significant for Passover?
Well, I think it's very significant, Don, because here you have this blood red moon. And we know that Jesus, as the Lamb of God, shed his blood on Passover. Mm-hmm. And so it was the same time 3,500 years ago when the first Exodus took place, the first Passover took place. They put the blood on the doorpost. Mm-hmm. It was that night that all the Egyptian firstborn died. And I think it's significant that Jesus, who is God's firstborn, he dies. And to have this tie-in of this blood moon, and in Psalms, God says the moon is my faithful witness in heaven. Having this blood moon happen on Passover is highly significant. It doesn't happen that often in history.
I was going to ask you, is that a regular occurrence? It doesn't happen often?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, according to NASA, you only get one total lunar eclipse every year and a half, as it is. But this year we're having 4 in a row, and 2 of them are falling on Passover. This has only happened 8 times in 2,000 years.
And I remember reading that those mark significant times. Things happen in the culture and in the world, especially in Israel, in the Jewish nation, when that happens.
Yes, in 1967, it's when they recaptured Jerusalem, which is a very huge prophetic event. 1948, right after they become a nation, well, they won the War of Independence. They were declared a nation in 1949, and here we have 1949 and 1950, these blood moons on Passover 2 years in a row. 1492, when all the Jews were kicked out of Spain, and Portugal in 1493. You have the Inquisition going on, and here you have these blood moons happen. Even in 32, 33 A.D., when around the time of Jesus' death, you had these blood moons on Passover.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Is that
And
right?
70 A.D. with the destruction of the temple.
Really?
There were some eclipses on the biblical holidays. So God said he created the sun and the moon to send signals on his appointed times. And so here we have these appointed times. I think God's trying to wake us up.
Wake us up to what?
I think it's wake us up to the times that we're living in. If you remember, the sons of Issachar understood the times, and they knew what Israel ought to do. Well, I believe much of the church is asleep, and we need to wake up to understand the times that we're living in and how urgent the time is, I believe, to the Messiah's return.
So this is a sign from God.
Yes, yes.
It's not a sign of anger or wrath.
No.
But it's a sign of warning?
I think it's a sign of warning. I think it's a sign of redemption. Blood signifies redemption. But I think a lot of it, too, is a warning that we need to be prepared spiritually as well as physically.
Prepared for
whatever may come. Just like when you see a bunch of, like on the TV shows, you see dust being kicked up in the distance. You're not sure what it means. You see the horses finally coming, but then you see again, you're not sure what it means. I think of the book of Acts, when Peter quotes the book of Joel. He didn't know really until after it happened, and then he connected the dot back. So I think sometimes we're not going to know until it happens, but we need to connect the dots to what God is saying. And if we don't know what God's signals are or that he's trying to communicate to us, we're going to totally miss the communication.
It fascinates me that the references that we make from the Old Testament to this type of an occurrence are thousands of years old.
Thousands of years old.
Yeah, and we're seeing it in our own world.
Today.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yes, yes. This is the people that are alive today are seeing a once-in-a-lifetime event. As a matter of fact, even the total solar eclipse that happened the other day was a once-in-human history event. It only occurs every once in 100,000 years. And that happened on the 1st of Nisan, 2 weeks before Passover.
In 100,000 years?
Yes. Only once before have you had, well, let me explain it this way. A total solar eclipse, it happened on the first day of Nisan, which is the first day of the religious month. Right. But it also was the very first day of the spring equinox. Okay? That happened 400 years ago, but it was in the southern hemisphere. Never in human history, I'm saying it's mathematically 1 in 100,000 years, will you have a total solar eclipse on the time of the spring equinox that also is at the North Pole. Okay? Yeah. And it happened on the first day of the religious calendar, and this last weekend, the reading was about the dedication of the temple Okay, and last weekend was the very anniversary of the dedication of the temple
Well,
on the 1st of Nisan. Too many coincidences.
That's just, Pastor, that can't be coincidental.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
divinely ordained and established.
Kicking off this religious year, what God ordained in the heavens was a total solar eclipse on the first day of the religious calendar, when every Jew is reading the Torah portion about the dedication of the calendar, okay? And then 2 weeks later, we have this total blood moon on Passover. God is really trying to communicate to us.
Well, we need to listen. We need to pay attention.
Exactly.
And listen, you know, it's also, yesterday was the beginning of First Fruits, the Feast of First Fruits, which is Easter,
Right.
the resurrection. We celebrate resurrection. How does Easter and First Fruits tie together?
Oh, they're identical in the sense that he rose on the Feast of First Fruits. Now, Easter celebrates the resurrection. And so just like Passover and First Fruits are tied together, just like Passover and Easter, in the sense that that's when he rose from the dead. He died on Passover. He was buried on unleavened bread. He rose on the Feast of First Fruits. The people don't realize the Jews have been keeping the Feast of First Fruits for thousands of years. And that's what they were supposed to do, is bring the first fruits of their best and the first fruits of the earth.
Yes.
And here Yeshua was the first fruit of the earth being presented to his Father.
Now, the first fruit offering was the barley offering.
For Passover, yes, it was the barley. And then for Pentecost, it was the wheat. And then for Tabernacles, it was of the fruit.
And those are three festivals or feasts where God required a first fruit offering.
Yes, and they were pilgrimage feasts. Where
What's that mean?
That means that they had to literally be like pilgrims and go to the temple 3 times a year for Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacles.
And then were there promises that God attached to those feasts?
Well, God's the blessings are mentioned in Leviticus. He says, if you obey me, if you do these things I'm telling you to do, not only will you be blessed like a tsunami wave, the blessings will just come and knock you over. You get up, another blessing would knock you over. Amen. And so that's what he wants.
I'm ready to get knocked over.
I'm ready too.
Thank
Jump
you,
in.
Pastor. God bless.
Bless you.